Welcome to the Hopefulist Activated. Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Welcome. This is something new, and it's a way to keep you abreast of what's happening in our country right now. Now, I plan to do an additional podcast every week titled The Hopefulist Activated. And if you are somebody who really just doesn't want to get involved in that, that's fine. All of the podcast episodes and blog posts will be titled Hopefulist Activated. That is your signal that this is politics related. But I wanted to do something that will address what is happening in our country right now. It's a difficult time, so I want you to get the facts and actions that you can take if you don't like what you see. So there you go. Look out for Hopefulist Activated, and then we will have our typical daily dose of inspiration and positivity every Monday, as we have for the past 3 years. I was in Washington, D.C. last weekend for the Women's March to the White House. It was exhilarating to be there and hear everyone's voices be heard. We know that President Biden didn't have anything to do with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but there are things he can do to protect women right now, and that is what we are urging him to do. He has done a couple of things, and we want to urge him to do even more because he does have power. He can do certain things. So the quote of the day today is, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. Instead, I am changing the things I cannot accept. That by Angela Y. Davis. Now, as I mentioned, this is something new called the Hopefulist Activated. It's about what's going on in the country and what we can do to fight for the rights that this Supreme Court has already taken from us and what we can do to ensure that no more are stripped. Now, this is so important to me because I have created this platform as a way to inspire and empower women to take control of their lives, to live the best life that they can. We cannot do that if we don't have choices in this country. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we lost the right to do what we choose with our bodies. We are now being forced to carry a child we don't want for 9 months. We don't want to raise a child, but yet we have to be that incubator for 9 months. That means we have to put our lives on hold for close to a year to do something we don't want to do. It can derail our careers. It can stop us from traveling freely where we want to go. It can stop a young woman who is relying on a sports scholarship for college to have to stop playing that sport. It can cause people to judge us and bully us for our choices. And it will force our body to go through an enormous change and often difficult, painful delivery. I would love to see how men would react to being forced to giving up almost a year of their life to go through all of the physical and mental challenges of carrying a child. It wouldn't happen. There is just no way. Men don't even want to get a needle. And women don't want to get a needle either, but we don't cry about it as much as the men do. Now, this should be important to you as well, as I'm sure you know someone who has sex. And that means a pregnancy can result. Even if you have sons, this decision means he will have no choice in the matter. He is becoming a father, whether he wants to or not. It's the same for everyone in your life. You could become pregnant after having raised 3 babies already, and you have decided that you don't want to start all over again. But guess what? You are now stuck. Yes, I know there are still states where you can get safe, legal abortions, but the states that are outlawing abortion are already trying to stop women, pregnant women, from crossing state lines. It is true. Legislation is in the works that will make it illegal for women who are pregnant to leave certain states to obtain an abortion. It would look like the Texas abortion law that went into effect last year, where they rely on private citizens to enforce litigation rather than attempting to impose a state-enforced ban on crossing state lines, because, that's harder to enforce. So what does that mean? It means that anyone helping a pregnant woman leave the state for an abortion could be sued, including doctors who can help make these arrangements. Arkansas State Senator Jason Rappert says his state may soon address in an already planned special session, according to the Washington Post. Another senator from Arkansas has expressed interest in introducing that legislation. So when they say that there will still be access to abortion in other states, they don't mean that you can get there. They will attempt to stop anyone traveling to get the care needed. It's about control. It is all about control. It seems pretty obvious. This Supreme Court and the GOP-controlled states not only do not care about the rights of women, but they don't even care about their lives. If they did, they wouldn't be banning abortions for those with ectopic pregnancies and for pregnancies that have ended in the life of the fetus, but yet you can still not abort it. How does that make any sense at all? These laws are putting women's lives in danger, real danger. Yet there seem to be so many that don't care, and that is still so baffling to me. I saw a video yesterday where a woman is pregnant. She's, I think, 19 weeks pregnant. She wants to have this baby. She is a high-risk pregnancy, which means that she has lost babies and miscarried in the past. And she has a very real possibility of doing so again. And if it comes down to it, if it's the choice between aborting the baby for her own health, she's going to choose herself, because she has 2 little girls at home and she wants to come back home to them. So as much as she wants to try to have this baby, she feels like she has been put into a corner, because now that she's 19 weeks pregnant, she can still get a legal abortion in some states, which she is planning to do. Because once she, say, got to week 25 or 26, and then something seriously goes wrong, she doesn't want her life to be at risk, because she can no longer get an abortion. This is just one of the ramifications of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. This is what people aren't thinking of, but yet the people who are just don't seem to care. They're pro-life, but they don't care about the woman's life that is giving birth. And listen, this court has just gotten started. They already stated in the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade that they will use the same logic to ban gay marriage, regulate the use of contraception. They will also be hearing Moore v. Harper in October when they reconvene. And that can drastically affect voting rights. Now, the case could have major implications for voting rights across the country and fundamentally change the landscape of election law, according to a CNN article. It goes on to say that a decision to undermine the courts could empower state lawmakers in disputes over redistricting maps and potentially offer them more freedom to intervene in federal elections. For example, in the 2020 election, when Trump kept saying there was fraud and he didn't believe the outcome of the election, even though there was no proof whatsoever of voter fraud, when he illegally went to individual states to ask them to overturn the will of the people and awarded the states electoral votes anyway. That will now be possible if this case is overturned. And do you know what that means? It truly does not matter who you vote for, because the state will be able to award the electoral votes to whoever they wish, whoever they want in office. And that, my friends, is not democracy at all. That is not freedom. And I know some of you are thinking, well, that would never happen. This just won't happen. Think again. They are telling us in advance what they are going to do. The fact that they are going to look at this case and they have the power to overturn it means they are considering it. I think the majority of people didn't think we would lose our rights to control our own bodies and health, yet that's happened. And they have said what is up next. Gay marriage, contraception, voting rights, and this is only after their first session. Again, they are telling us exactly what they are going to do, yet nobody is doing anything about it. I have to believe the reason the Roe v. Wade decision was leaked in May was because whoever that person was thought that something could be done to stop it before it actually happened. Yet next to nothing was done to stop this atrocious decision from happening. So if you didn't do anything then because you thought it wouldn't actually happen, now you know to believe the court when they say they are going to do something. Now, the reason that Democrats are against requiring ID at the voting booth is not so illegals can vote, as the GOP loves to flaunt around and float around. That is something that needs to be hashed out in the voter registration process, and that is where it needs to stay. Now, the reason why Democrats don't want to force ID at the voting booth is because, and this is just one reason, there are many poor people living in inner cities that don't have a driver's license or a formal ID because they don't need it. They don't need it for their lives. They're not getting on a plane. They're not driving a car. They're not crossing state lines. And they likely won't go through the trouble to get one just to vote twice a year. So it's a way to suppress poor voters. You know, the ones who typically don't vote for Republicans. So it's time for action, ladies. We need to do whatever we can to get our reproductive rights back and keep the government out of our private lives. That means working to stop what they are up to next, taking away voting rights, banning gay marriage, and regulation of contraception. You absolutely have to vote in every election for people who align with these values. And you have to get everyone you know to vote for them as well. Please don't ever forget, these people work for us. The majority of the people in this country want some sort of reproductive rights, so tell them that. Again, the majority of people in this country want some sort of reproductive rights, so why don't we no longer have them? And please speak up when you can. Please, on social media, to those who may be on the fence over the issues or those that don't understand what is really happening. Don't let the daughters of our next generations down. Don't let them down. Tell them that you fought for them. You fought to get them everything that they deserve. We need to fight, and we won't go back.
Thank you for listening to The Hopefulist. Now, don't you feel good? Make sure you come back next week. See you then.